Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly hanged it with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Fall off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
There's about 5 of us was over there. The blue knocker car pulled up and they already had their gun. You know, they was like, the door was open. He was riding up, the man that was on the passenger side was riding up and the door was open. And they jumped down and he said, everybody pulled out the service revolver and said, everybody freeze, and told the guy, you hold it. And that's when he came, you know, he just came out and came out and opened fire, and, you know, because he wasn't gone. What did I do? Yeah. I was dirty. I ran too.
If you put them pit bull style stitches in me, the next patient gonna be you.
For real.
What? You don't like rawhide? Ooh, Marlo. We finna get back to old times, baby. Fuck.
Hey, they had cheese fries, baby. I got you some.
Avon, stay down, man. I got you covered. Drive, motherfucker, get out of here!
Here it is right here, world famous pizza. You see how much it look like a pizza? All right. And as kids, we would take these to the top floor, usually on the 14th floor. And when the cops came in or when our rivals came in, we would slide them off the balcony or out the fence. And the sound of this motherfucker from hitting cement, from 14 flights up,
Like a bomb.
man, it's life-changing. I don't care what the fuck you were doing before that moment.
Among the oldest residents at the Murphy Homes project are violence and death. But when 8 people were murdered in a 1981 drug war at Murphy Homes, the residents decided to fight back.
You're not familiar with the history of Baltimore's high-rises. Murphy Homes has stood for nearly 40 years and is considered a failed housing project.
The quality of life is increased greatly at the Murphy Homes.
And despite the 3 murders committed here during the past 3 nights, a spokesman for the residents, Carol Jordan, told me she doesn't believe it's a revival of the old drug-related violence, and neither do the police.
It was too many drugs down there for one thing, and The elevators didn't hardly work. If somebody gets sick, the ambulance would have to come there. They had to bring the person down the steps.
Dinosaurs, outdated skeletons, soon to be dust.
If you live in the projects, you can live anywhere. And I live 725 George Street, apartment 12F. And I never thought I could make it through it, but I did. And I had 10 grandchildren, 4 children that came from there.
She and thousands more came to witness the end of Murphy Homes, to watch 500 pounds of dynamite tear through concrete and memories.
We will remember, but we want to move forward in the future with a great deal of confidence.
It's a little bit after 9:30 now, and the festivities are continuing. It's hard to believe that in less than 30 minutes, those 4 buildings, a part of Baltimore history, will be gone.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hit it!
And then you saw history made live on Eyewitness News. It took less than 30 seconds to bring down 36 years of Baltimore history.
What happened today is not that uncommon here. Dealing with violence is a way of life for most residents of the Murphy homes.
One of the greatest problems centers around narcotics. And unfortunately, when you get an area where you have a concentration of narcotics, you will begin to see violent crimes occurring. And I'm talking about aggravated assaults, robberies, and in some cases even worse, murder.
Hill says the community has gotten involved through block watch programs and meetings with police to try and cut crime. But has it helped?
It's terrible around here. People crazy.
Do you feel safe living here?
No.
Do you see crime going down?
No.
You still think there's a problem here?
Yes, definitely.
There are plenty of police in the area. We don't patrol, however, inside the apartments, and this is where the problems occur.
So even though the community has gotten involved and the police say violence has gone down, what happened here today is indication there's still a long way to go to make the Murphy homes a safe place to live. In West Baltimore, Michael Shockett, News Scene 2. It was 5:45 this morning when the police were summoned to the Murphy Homes projects. They found a number of people inside one apartment. All had been shot or stabbed. There was blood on the walls. The back room looked like it had been ransacked.
Some people were held in this apartment against their will, at gunpoint, knife point. And after a period of time, apparently they initiated a struggle to escape, and when they did that, that's when all the shooting and stabbing took place.
After the shooting occurred, 2 people were able to get out. One ran to Martin Luther King Boulevard, where he flagged down a police car. Another ran to the 1100 block of Argyle Avenue, where that person knocked on someone's door for help. Police say 3 people, 28-year-old Michael Stokes, 22-year-old Mira Franklin, and her cousin Timothy Franklin, 33, apparently went to the Murphy homes last night where they knew they could buy drugs. All 3 were assaulted and brutally beaten inside the apartment, police think, after something went wrong with the drug deal. Then, early this morning, after all 3 had been held against their will, Stokes apparently went for one of the assailants' guns. That's when all the shooting...
Now, y'all tell me what guys like Frank Nitty Usher, Ronnie Bumps Bassett, James Ward Corley, the Woods brothers from Memphis, and a few other people that's not coming to mind right now have in common with the person that I'm covering today. I'll give y'all the right answer at the end. Yo, what up though? Shay's Popalot. Salute the almighty mob. We just pulled up to Murderland with it. The Bodymore section. And this is going to be a time in history of the city when it probably got that name. Now, with it being 20 years since the premiere of the iconic HBO show, The Wire, in 2002, though I have not watched the show, I'm going to be one of the first people to say how ahead of its time the show truly was. And before y'all could even get on me about not watching The Wire, you got to understand me to understand why not. Now, me personally, I try not to do anything that everybody is doing. We still ain't eat one of those chicken sandwiches from Popeyes. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I just don't. And plus, the show stole people's stories without paying homage. But if you ever wonder why, out of all of the big timers to come out of the city of Baltimore, the main contributor to the show, The Wire, former Baltimore Sun writer David Simon would choose Nathan Bodie Barksdale to play one of the show's most pivotal characters, it's because at the time, he probably was the most feared nigga walking the streets of Baltimore. And though he was said to grow up in Lexington Terrace housing projects, he was also once a force in one of Baltimore's, and I'm going to say the nation's, most notorious housing projects, Murphy Homes, or Murder Homes, whatever you want to call it. Now, a January 13th, 1993 Baltimore Sun article will report that the housing project had 25 vacant apartments that was ready to be rented, but after making offers to the top 300 applicants on the waiting list, the agency had not been able to find a single tenant willing to live in one of those 25 apartments. Boy, that shit was wicked. Built in the 1940s, it would stand to the early 2000s. The projects was once the earliest public housing developments in the city, and it was initially seen as a solution to urban housing problems. But over the years, Murder Homes would face numerous challenges, including disrepair, crime, and lack of investment, leading Murphy Homes to become a symbol for the problems associated with public housing, not only in the city of Baltimore, but the entire United States. In 1981, 8 people would be murdered in the projects as part of a drug war, and by the 1990s, Murphy Homes became primarily known for crime and violence, and this would be a place where Nathan Bodie Barksdale would flourish at. He would be crippled at the age of 11 in an incident where his foot would be crushed for stealing a man's lunch. Now, that just shows you how hard life was for Bodie. Battling a history of drug use, some would say that started as early as age 18, when it would be rumored that he would get addicted to the same opioids that was supposed to help him recover from the leg injury. But as you're going to see, throughout his life, that foot injury didn't slow him down none, and he would really use it to his advantage. Growing up in the projects, he would have a bird's eye view of the drug game and would fall under the wings of a Baltimore hustler by the name of Frank Harper. Frank was one of those old school bosses. In a Baltimore Sun article, they would write how he disciplined Bodie one time for skimming on the money. They would describe a situation where Frank would leave a young Bodie in the basement with a vicious German Shepherd. He would come up running through the projects with a guy that was 1 year older than him and almost like the Robin to his Batman, a dude by the name of Miranda Wharton. By March of 81, when Bodie would have been around 20 years old, he would be charged with murder after he would shoot a dude during an argument at 1058 Argyle Avenue. He would be arrested for the homicide, but charges would eventually be dropped after the only witness in the case would recant their statement. He would also be shot later that very same year of 1981 in a drug dispute. It would be the second and the most serious of 4 instances in which Bodie would be wounded by gunfire. And this is according to court records in 1987. In that shooting, he would be hospitalized with 6 gunshot wounds. And in the act that I'm going to let y'all decide whether it was snitching or brilliant, Bodie would identify his shooter to the police. But when the case would come to trial a year later, in July of 1982, he would refuse to testify against the man. Instead, he would wait till the man was escorted into the courtroom by sheriff's deputies. Then he would step into the aisle and knock the man unconscious with a blow to the head from his metal cane. He would eventually serve 30 days for that assault. It would be in and around this time where his leg would be amputated from the knee down due to the injury that he would suffer to his foot early on in life. But just like the injury didn't slow him down, the amputation wouldn't either. In August of 1982, he would be charged with the murder of his one-time mentor and the guy that had tortured him as a child. Frank Harper, with authorities speculating that the motive for the murder was for Bodie to have a monopoly on some of the most lucrative territory in the projects, with his childhood friend Miranda suspected as being his accomplice in the murder. Now, y'all remember when I said he would use his disability to his advantage? He would eventually be acquitted of that murder after only 3 hours of deliberation, when, according to the Baltimore Sun, jurors in the trial didn't believe that a man bound to a wheelchair could be responsible for the murder. Got him. Now, in that very same month of August 1982, him, Miranda, and another man by the name of Andre Hart would be charged with the murder of a 30-year-old by the name of John Bailey, with the murder said to be in retaliation for the robbery of another guy by the name of Louis Savage. Now, the only witness that the government had for the murder of Frank Harper and John Bailey was a 17-year-old by the name of Patrick Battle, who at one time worked for Bodie. He would only agree to testify for the police after Bodie would allegedly attempt to have him killed, having lied when being questioned early on in the investigation and the murder of John Bailey. He would discredit himself, and Bodie would again walk free when the charges of that murder would eventually be dismissed. He would then be charged with the kidnapping and attempt murder of Patrick Battle just 3 days after the Bailey murder. Although Patrick Battle would lie to the police when questioned initially about Bailey's death, Bodie believed otherwise, and he marked the 17-year-old for death. Battle would be driven by Barksdale and 3 other men to a location where, according to him, the group would attempt to murder him, with him only getting away by jumping through the living room window of a house in nearby Edmonton Village. By the spring of 1984, shit had just got crazy, and in April of that year, Bodie's right-hand man, Miranda, would be involved in a double homicide at a place called Club Chandler, an after-hour spot located on the 2300 block of Reisterstown Road, with the 2 victims being a guy by the name of Michael Stewart and the doorman to the club and former hustler, Joseph Proposition Joe Johnson. 3 days after that murder, Bodie, who had been able to escape police up until this point, his run would come to an end when he would be involved with the prolonged torture of 3 people at the notorious Murphy homes, and would end up receiving a 15-year sentence for his role in that crime. Now, a 15-year sentence in 1985 would put him back on the streets right around the turn of the millennium in 2000, with having done so much dirt and eventually slowing down with his injury and his old age. He was allegedly caught by police in possession of a handgun. He would be charged federally, but he ultimately would be acquitted of that gun charge. Now, you would think after a long criminal career in the streets, it would be a wrap. But remember when I asked the question at the beginning, what did he have in common with the people I mentioned? The answer being, some people are just gangsters to the end. And in 2014, Bodie would be caught up in a DEA wiretap investigation. Now, by this time, he was said to have fallen into drug use and would get samples from dealers, agreeing to pass them on to either customers or other dealers, and would use them in a drug-like Ponzi scheme. He would plead guilty, and based on his enhancements, he would be hit with nearly 4 years in a federal prison. He would go on to die just 2 years later, in February 2016, from an undisclosed illness at the Fed joint in Butner, North Carolina, at the age of 54. Now, like I said, with it being 20 years since the debut of The Wire, was Bodie one of the most memorable characters? Even though, like I said, I hadn't seen the show, I can think of 3 myself, but I want to see what y'all know. Y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. Y'all get in the comment box below. Let me know where we need to go, what stories we need to tell, what we missed, what we got wrong, all of that. Y'all get with me directly. Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Until the next time, y'all know the rundown. Shades Popalot. Salute the almighty mob.